What do you think are the three main threats facing the U.S. right now?
Facing us, our own budget. Yeah, I mean, frankly, if you look at the numbers in terms of the staggering debt that we are accumulating, it has everything to do with our position, what we're able to do. Look what's going on in Washington right now. Are we going to reach a decision on coming up with $1.2 trillion in savings over the next 10 years? You've got a $14 trillion deficit right now, or debt, I should say, but we're running deficits in excess of $1.5 trillion a year. So that you cannot be a strong country if you've got a weak economy, and you cannot have a strong economy if you've got debt in those numbers that you have to pay off. So we are engaging what I used to call fiscal child abuse. We are beating our kids and our grandkids with clubs that you can't see, and the bruises don't show up for some years to come. If you think about the burdens they are going to have to pay for our borrowing habits, and it used to be when I was growing up, my parents borrowed for me to help make a better life for me. Today, we're borrowing from our kids to make a better life for ourselves. So we've inverted that value, and I think it's going to become, it's the biggest threat we face long term, because other countries don't take us seriously anymore. China in particular. If you notice the last month or so, the Chinese were openly criticizing the United States, saying, get your house in order before you start lecturing us about anything. And say, you know, you're the ones who are supposed to be the grand masters of the financial world. And this is what you've been practicing and preaching all this time, but look what's happened here. And so they look with less admiration upon the United States. And as we look at other countries, they're looking at our debate, and they watch how we handle our affairs, and they're saying maybe the future is in the East, not in the West. So that is a threat, I think, that one we're not really realizing the depth of it. But I think it has everything to do, for example, I think you probably read Neil Ferguson. Neil Ferguson has written The Ascent of Money, but he's also written for Council on Foreign Affairs, but talks about other countries looking at our debate on deficits, and they're making judgments. So right now, if the Select Committee on Capitol Hill right now, if they don't reach an agreement by November 27, what happens? The trigger goes into effect automatically a month later, right? Across the board cuts of $1.2 trillion. Across the board, meaning out of defense alone, it'll come close to about $1 trillion over 10 years. What does that mean? It means that all of these statements that we're making, that we're going to have a bigger presence in the Asia-Pacific region, how do you do that? You're cutting back the numbers of ships, you're cutting back aircraft, you're going to reduce the size of your force. So other countries are watching our numbers. And if we can't reach some kind of a consensus on how we are going to manage our fiscal and financial affairs, they know that will translate into capability eventually. And so as they're getting bigger, with a higher presence, I'll give you another example. Hank Greenberg and I just filed a report for CSIS. We did one called Smart Power with China. This one is the U.S.-ASEAN relationship, the Association of Southeast Asian Countries. The ASEAN countries, they are doing more business with China than ever before. They're doing a lot more with them than they are with us, but they're worried. They know they're going to continue to do more business with China. It's in the neighborhood. China's the power now. But they're worried they don't want to be dictated to by China. So they would like to have us as a security blanket. Nice try if you can get it, right? So they can do more business with China, but they need to have us make sure that we're a presence and have a presence in the region. How do you have a presence in the region when you're cutting back dramatically on your defense expenditures? So that's threat number one. Threat number two, the spread of nuclear technology. That's why Iran is so important today. Iran, should it get nuclear weapons, and I can tell you the Saudis will get it, and probably the Egyptians eventually, and other countries, maybe UAE. It'll be a deterrent against Iran exerting more and more power in the region. That's what everyone over the region is worried about. We have removed Iraq as a buffer against their expansionist power. And so the spread of nuclear weapons, I think, is going to pose the next biggest threat because more and more people have access to nuclear materials that can, some of it's going to slip through eventually. Nothing is inevitable until it happens, but most people really do project and predict that at some point in time we will have a nuclear weapon go off in an American city, which is what the novel is about. And the third one, and perhaps even more dangerous than the nuclear threat because it's more readily available, and that is cyber attacks. If I can take down your ability to manage your flight control of your aircraft, if I can shut off your supply of electricity and water transmission, etc., I can bring you to your knees pretty quickly. And so we have to then build structures that are able to defend against cyber attacks, and these are increasing at a level we haven't seen before. So those are the three that I would point to: finance, nuke, and cyber.